Well, hello there. Welcome back. Boy, a lot has happened in the last week or so, and I'm just now getting around to talking about it, so I'm going to take a time out, chit-chat a little bit, gab at you, and tell you about what I've been experiencing the past couple of weeks. And I'm going to start today with something that actually happened yesterday. I was on my way to get my coffee, to take my coffee break just for me, which is something I pretty much do every day. And on my way to pick up my coffee at the coffee shop, I stopped behind this delivery truck that's stopping to let another car in front of it turn right into a parking lot. And by doing that, I get rear-ended. So I'm going to talk to you today about what it's like to be rear-ended. And I don't mean that to be crude or explicit in any way, but it did happen to me yesterday, and as I sat and thought about it over the last 24 hours, it's happened more than once. And I'm thinking, what is this, a pattern? So let's talk about what it's like to be rear-ended, okay? Now, rear-ended in a car collision just basically comes down to usually a fender bender. And I'm really grateful that it's just a fender bender and not something serious that caused a lot of injuries. But yesterday was just a little bit different because I was hit by someone who was working in one of those car ride positions, and they had a passenger in the back seat who happened to be lying down in the back seat. And so they were working when they came up behind me and hit me in the back end. Of course, as soon as that happened, I thought, ugh, and I pulled over and turned into the nearest entrance into a parking area, and they followed me in and pulled in front of me, which was really nice. It could have been a hit and run because I had a friend recently, not that long ago anyway, who had the same thing happen, and that person just took off. They didn't even stick around. And so I was fortunate and glad and happy that this person didn't just take off, that we could get out and we could talk to one another and find out if everyone was okay. That was my number one concern. And I felt the impact of this, when it hit, and I could feel it in my neck a little bit. So I thought, oh no, I hope I'm not okay. I hope I'm physically okay. And so I was constantly doing these head rolls like this and, doing this and trying to stretch through my sides and bend over and roll up and just doing some general stretching exercises just to make sure that I'm physically able to move and maneuver and be mobile, and that I wasn't in any kind of injury type situation or extreme pain. And so I didn't feel like that was the case. I felt like I was okay, but I just kept saying to anyone who was asking I think I'm okay. This is what I'm doing just to make sure. And I thought, maybe in 24 hours I would know more, which, you never know about these situations sometimes. You could be really sore the next day, and it just took that long for it to come about. So I was trying to combat that on my own side of things, just for my own physical health and safety. And I even got on the treadmill for 5 miles, running and a little walking, just to get the blood flowing so that I could do something good for my body and sort of a rehab sort of situation without knowing if I needed it or not. And then I took a nice hot shower. So that being put aside, I was trying to take care of myself that way. What was interesting about this particular collision was that there was a person in the back seat of the car that hit me had jumped out of the car or gotten out of the car and said, "Oh, I just had surgery, call the police." And she tried to pull her pants down to show me where her surgery was, which I didn't quite see, but I thought that was interesting. And but she was lying down in the car without her seatbelt on in any way, so I imagine she just sort of rolled over into the floorboard. Anyways, it was a car ride, car share type of situation, and the guy had rented the car, as it turned out. And so I have actually been in a situation where I ended up in a rental car and I rear-ended somebody else on the LA freeways. in Los Angeles, which it's going to happen here and there. You know, people are just stopping and starting and stopping and starting, and you don't know how fast they're going, and you're trying to, you know, compensate for distance and speed and all that kind of stuff and be a defensive driver that way, but you can't always win because you don't know what's going on 3 cars ahead of you, kind of thing. So I know what it was like. I knew what it felt like to be in a situation where you're, number one, in a rental car. Number two, you're in a heavy traffic situation and you're trying to be a defensive driver and be safe, and it didn't work, and you hit the car in front of you. So again, first thing I did when that happened to me about 3 years ago or something like that, was jump out and make sure the guy was okay. Of course, he was angry. Of course, he wasn't thoughtful about the idea of, like, you know, health and safety come first and then, you know, talk about the issue. You know, and it was out of his control and it was out of my control. And I felt like this was the same situation that happened to me yesterday, and so I had empathy for that. And I just, you know, wanted to talk to the guy, make sure he was okay, make sure the passenger was okay. And then I looked at the car, and my car was the least damaged, interestingly enough. There was damage in you could see how some of the trunk had shifted a little bit, but I could open the trunk up and close it without any problems. And I didn't see anything but a few scratches. No lights were broken or anything like that. And you know, cars today, they make them out of plastic and rubber, so I mean, they just fall off like nothing. So I was surprised about that. But I think his rental car, front end of his rental car, was actually worse damaged than mine. So, and my airbags didn't go off either, so it wasn't a huge collision situation. But it bothered me, you know, it jolted my body and it shook me, and I thought, okay, I just need to make sure I'm okay. Interestingly enough, the lady in the back seat who had the surgery wanted to call somebody, and she called, and the paramedics came, and she went with them back to the hospital. So as a precaution, I guess, she wanted to do that. So I hope she's okay. The guy who was driving was a little, how shall I say, he didn't speak very clearly, so it was hard to understand him. And but we had a conversation in the beginning where he said I cut him off, but I didn't cut him off. I was standing behind a truck in the far right-hand lane, and to cut someone off, you literally have to maneuver in front of them, or, you know, try to squeeze in or something like that. And that wasn't the case. He was coming into me. So when the officer came, and we sat and we waited for the police report, because when I initially asked the guy for his driver's license and insurance information, he wouldn't give it to me. So I said, okay, well, we'll call the police. And we did, and we filed the police report, and of course the situation was very clearly that it was the other guy's fault. But I don't care about the fault so much as just the safety and the health of everybody else. So this was my experience yesterday of being rear-ended, and it reminded me of the previous incident where I rear-ended somebody else. And then since then, in between yesterday and 3 years ago, I was rear-ended again in Los Angeles on the 101 freeway. And the lady told me, well, you know, I had a choice. I could hit the other guy or I could hit you. I just chose you. And she ran into my rental car again and busted out the back. So you're dealing with a lot of insurance stuff, and it's very stressful. And, you know, and I just kept thinking over the last 24 hours how I just get tired of, you know, being put in that situation. It has happened to me, like over the last 10 years, I've probably had a few little rear-ender fender benders like that. And it's just crazy. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. You understand what I'm saying? I'm sure many of you who might be listening have been rear-ended or have rear-ended somebody, and it's just a huge waste of time. And I feel better just being in wide open spaces driving now. So you can't be enough of a defensive driver that way. And I've just been wondering, with my sense of humor the way it is, being goofy and giddy and wacky as I am, you know, how many times do I have to get rear-ended in life? And I'm not just talking about being rear-ended in a car and getting into these minor fender bender accidents that I have no control over. They just hit me, you know. But things in life where, people are pushing you around and shoving you around and you basically feel like you're just getting it up the backside kind of thing. This kind of came to my mind as well as I'm thinking about the rear end collision kind of thing and how I'd want to share all this information. I guess the biggest thing that I would want to point out, if you're feeling like, you're in a situation like what I've experienced with the car accident, but if you're analyzing that and using it as an analogy for other things in your life about being pushed around, shoved around, treated like a doormat, not respected, devalued, worthless, all those kinds of things. If you feel like you're being rear-ended or being told that you need to be in a position where you need to take it, then the best advice, and I don't really like to say advice because I don't give advice, it's just my suggestion and my thought on it is just to treat it like it is when you're in a rear end collision like yesterday, and try to be calm, cool, collected, and keep your wits about you and not get angry, just stay calm, try to solve the issue and move forward accordingly. Because that's exactly what I did. I'm amazed at how sometimes in situations like that I can be very calm when it could be a serious situation. And I just maintained my situation. I told the police officer everything I needed to tell him about what happened and where I was and what I was doing, and that was that. I didn't get mad at the driver. I just was, I think it pays to have a little more compassion and thought towards, caring, operating with a sense of care. I guess that's the bottom line. So even in a world where it's a dog-eat-dog, predatory type situation everywhere you go these days, staying calm, cool, collected, and knowing who you are in the midst of the tribulation or strife or stressful situation or whatever it is that's bugging you or who's bugging you, it may not be about you, it may be about them, but you have to know how you feel and where you stand in those situations and just proceed forward calm, cool, and collectively. And then you won't feel so much like you're being rear-ended all the time in life. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I just wanted to touch on those two issues lightly and share my experience of what happened yesterday and how that, how I got to thinking about all the other accidents that have happened in my life, which I guess in total is not a ton, but it's still more than I would like. And I don't want any of these situations to turn into something serious, and I don't want anyone hurt. So I wanted to be thoughtful about that and just share those ideas and thoughts with you today on my little gab session. So if you got anything out of that, give me a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button and share if you like, and come back and join me next time right here on the Coffee Break. Until then, I'll see you next time and have a great day. Bye for now.